Washington, D.C., we conduct interviews of veterans and civilians who participated in our country's military conflicts. Today, I'm here at the beautiful home of Teddy and Yvonne Abbink in California, along with fellow volunteer Harry Ziegler and special guest Yvonne Abbink and Andy Summer. And today we have the honor and the privilege of interviewing Corporal Teddy Abbink. Corporal Abbink was a corporal in the Royal Dutch Marines in Java at the breakout of World War II, subsequently became a prisoner of the Japanese. So we're going to talk to him about that and a lot of other things. Teddy, thanks for having us here.
Thank you for coming.
Okay. Now, would you repeat and spell your full name for us, please?
Starting with,
Spell your last name.
yes. My name is Abbink, spelled A-double-B like in boy, I-N like in Nelly, and K like in Kansas. My first name is Teddy, like in teddy bear.
And when and where were you born?
I was born in the city of Surabaya in the Netherlands East Indies, who are now called Indonesia. I was born in November 21, 1916.
1916.
I was the 10th child of my parents who had 12 children. 6 boys and 6 girls.
Do we dare try and name all the children?
You want the names of the children? Well, right now, out of the 12, there are 2 left.
Oh,
The names.
do you know the names of all your brothers and sisters?
Yes, sure. The oldest one is Willem Short. Then comes the daughter Nancy, and another daughter Dolly, and another daughter Jane. Then comes a brother Humphrey Emile. Then comes another daughter Celestine, and then comes a son called Humphrey Emile. We hear this name twice because the first Humphrey Emile died when he was 6 years old. So when another was born, he got that name, Humphrey Emile. Then number 9 is Rudy Ashville. Then number 10 is Teddy, myself. Then we have a girl called Irene, and then the youngest one is Emile Laurent.
And which 2 are still living?
The number 12 and number 10.
Okay. And your father, what was his name?
My father's name was Emile Laurent Abbink. He was head of the control department of the state's railways. And that was a fine job because we always traveled first class.
Teddy, I'm going to just take a break for a second. I want you...
And the sound is very bad.
Well, and your mother, what was her name and her maiden name?
My mother's name was Frederica Louisa Wilhelmina Goudsmit. Goudsmit, G like in George, O-U-D like in Denver, S-M-I-T-H.
And how did they meet? Do you know?
Well, my father was born in 1870 and my mother was born in 1878. I don't know exactly how they have met each other.
Were they both born in the Dutch East Indies?
Yes, both were born in the Dutch East Indies.
And how your ancestors, I assume, came from Holland or the
Yes.
others. Tell me about them and how your family ended up in the Dutch East Indies.
Okay. The father of my father was born in Holland. He became an officer.
Stop.
Okay, Yvonne, let's, you were saying?
His grandfather was born in Holland. He was the son, the illegitimate son of King Willem II from Holland. There's a baroness who was at the court from force to force. From that union came his grandfather. His grandfather was raised at the court. Later on, he decided to go to Indonesia. And that is how come
The Dutch East Indies.
the Dutch India, I'm sorry, the Dutch East
At
Indies,
that
yeah,
time, yes.
because at that time it was a Dutch colony. And you want to take over the story now again?
Okay.
Could I ask a quick, what would
Yes.
have prompted him to leave Holland and go,
We don't know.
we don't know?
We have no idea.
Okay.
Well, like I said, most of the Dutch people went to the Dutch East Indies because, you know, Holland itself is very small and cold, and in the Dutch East Indies it is wide, more than 3,000 islands. So
Okay, so the weather and the opportunities were
yes,
better there, yeah.
and there's a big difference with the Dutch and the British. The British went to British India at that time. They stayed there for 10, 20 years and then they go back to England. But the Dutch went to the Dutch East Indies. They stayed there and they stayed there and they died there. And so was the son of my father. Sorry.
Your grandfather. Your grandfather went to Indonesia
My
and
grandfather,
then he was in the cavalry.
the grandfather was the son of the Baroness,
Yeah, we told that already.
and was my father born.
The request was made because now we have this baroness who is, of course, pregnant. And there was a colonel in the Dutch court who was personal counselor of the king and also a personal friend. So, and that was Abbink. So he volunteered or was asked, we don't know. But he married the baroness, and that is where his grandfather came from. And then when he went to Indonesia, because we are there already, he was at the cavalry. Do you want to tell the story, what
Yeah.
happened?
Yeah, okay.
Let's stop for just one second here. Okay, so, okay, now we're rolling again.
Let's try to be more clear.
Yes.
A few service stripes.
Okay. So anyway, they're in the Dutch East Indies, and so you've had family there when you were born that had been living there for 40, 50 years, something like that, I assume,
Something like that, yeah.
or 40 years. And so when you were born, World War I was underway.
That's correct.
Did you have any relatives that participated in that you know of?
No, that was 1914, 1916,
Right.
World War I.
Was Holland involved in that
No.
war?
No.
They were not, okay.
Holland was neutral.
Okay.
Yeah.
Does that include the Netherlands? All of
Yes,
them?
yes, all of them.
When Germany started and wanted to go fire Holland further to the south, the Holland people say, no, stop at the border. And they listened at that time, not the second time they went through. But coming back then, my father was born in 1870. His father was born in 1820. And his father went to the Dutch East Indies. He was an officer in the cavalry.
The cavalry, yeah.
And while being there for a long time, he had friends, and two of his friends were always very angry about their commander, because the commander was after the girls.
The wives?
Mm-hmm.
Wife, yes. So they came together with the three of them, my father, my grandfather, and the two others, and they were discussing what to do about it. So they came to a solution. And my father said, well, I'll do it. You both are married, I'm not married, so I'll do it. What did he do? On the birthday of the Queen, there's always a big
Parade.
Parade. Very big parade on a very large lawn.
Square. The main square.
He drove his,
He rode. He rode, yes.
he rode his horse over the open field to his commander, to his commander. He saluted, and then he took his whip, and in the presence of thousands and thousands of people, he hit the commander. He was a rank of captain, back and forth, back and forth. So, of course, he was put in jail, and
He received the death sentence.
he received the death sentence, what is logical. But at that time, when he was in jail, when there was a death, when there was somebody who was going to,
Was on death row.
was on death row, there always a flag was hanging there on a special way. And when one of the persons who were of the
Dutch court, a dignitary of the Dutch court.
yeah, in Holland, he saw the flag, so he said, who is on death row? Oh, said Abbink. What? Abbink? He went right away to the judge. He said, you can't do that. You can do that. He is the son of the king. You cannot do that. Let him loose.
Let him go.
Let him go. So it happened.
How? Yeah.
And strange enough, this same guy, my grandfather, he became governor while he did such a bad thing. So he became governor. That was the story then for my father.
Was your family very religious? Did you guys go to church a lot and stuff?
One of my sisters became a teacher of a Christian school.
But you didn't go to church as a family. The kids were sent to Bible school. But
Yes, we had gone to the Bible school.
What religion was that?
Christian, just a Christian.
Just Christian. Yeah.
But the church became important in our family when they grew up. Like I myself, I thank the Lord for so much that He did for me. And I started a Church of Christ here in town with the help of a preacher. But should I tell this?
Sure, go ahead. Go ahead.
And so in November 30, 1986, it's 21 years ago, a preacher from Long Beach and I were able to open a building. It took weeks and weeks before we got the building because it was very hard to find a place. So I was able to go to the women's, to the Paperback Women's Club, it is so,
Yeah, maar dat wordt lang
and I could hire that building. So we started there, and on the first day we thought, who is coming? But at least the preacher and his wife, and me and my wife. But you know how many there were? 55 for the first Sunday morning.
And where was that building?
In the
Women's Club
in
in
the women's
Volver.
club.
In Faber.
In
Oh,
Faber.
I see. Yeah. And is that still going?
Yes, still going.
Mhm.
Good. And how many parishioners now?
Well, we had to move because,
No, answer the question.
yeah, I have to say first that
Yeah.
after we were in the women's club so many years, we were asked by the First Church of Christ in Fallbrook, who had a nice building since 1888, and said, do you want to use our building too? Well, that was much better than just in a regular place. So we moved to that church, and that church had about, I guess, about 80 people, and we were with about 50 people. But we were so blessed by the Lord because our number of members became more and more and more, and the members of the church of
Your church.
less. So it came after 4 years, I think, that we were asked, can you please find another place? We have to move. No, it was very hard to find a place in. And finally then I went to the Fallbrook
Senior Center.
Senior Center. And we could hire, rent a local there. And until today we still are there. In the meantime we have been able to buy a lot in Fallbrook here, but we have no money to build.
But and I'm sure that it's grown quite a lot. Do you know about how many members that you have now?
Right now we have maybe,
I don't know, no, we might have 40, 50 at the most. But this building we're in is very unkind for us. We have no exposure. And I hate to say it, I found that out later, that apparently the senior citizen club is, when you say you're there, they think about only old people in the congregation. Well, we have lots of young people, but anyway, so that's why we like to build on our piece of property.
Yeah. Okay, going back again when you were growing up, what did you do for fun? I mean, what was when you were growing up as a kid?
as a kid, yes. Okay, then I started when I was 6 years in school, finished the school.
No, what did you do
Well,
for
but that's
fun?
okay. What was the name of the school that you went to?
Oh, that was a government school.
Government school. Uh-huh.
Government school.
And did you go with Caucasians and natives? Did they all go together to the same school?
Yeah, but there were very few
Indonesian people.
Indonesian people.
It was mostly the Dutch.
The Dutch and the Chinese, isn't it?
Some of the Chinese were
Chinese were there too.
maybe in the class 4 or 5 Chinese
Oh.
and the rest just Dutch. So,
Tell them about your vacations. How you used to go to Nongadjatja and how you used to go by horse first, and your mother in a litter, how she was carried in a litter, because that was the only way you could go to Nongadjatja. Remember?
no, it's hard for them to.
Well, I told it already.
This was to Jakarta you're talking about?
No, that was a place in the mountains,
Uh-huh.
and they took usually a 1 month's vacation
Yeah.
trip there with the whole family, the whole extended family. Everybody went,
Uh-huh.
and when he was very small, he remembers that everybody went on horseback. His mother was carried in a litter, by the. I guess the servants or the people who were available to do that. Later on, of course, there were roads, and then they went up by car. But that was a big thing always, to have the whole family. And it was a big family, of course, by this time,
Yeah.
because the older brothers and sisters, they were all married and had kids of their own, and those kids were very often the age of that.
Yeah. Now, what was the town that you lived in again? Grew up in?
When I was born, it was the town of Surabaya,
Yeah.
which was the capital town.
You know, maybe this might be a good time. Maybe
To
you
get
can.
the map,
I got
to
a
hold
map
the
here.
map for you.
I'm holding. What I want you to do is to point out
She made copies.
these things.
Yeah, but this is the big one. Okay.
Let's see. Harry, can you see that?
Now I have to get my
Yeah.
glasses.
Okay.
Are you taking a break, Dave, from your recording? Or is-
No, we're recording.
You're recording.
But you can. Yeah.
Maybe of importance here, Teddy was number 10 of 12 children,
Right.
which may have something to do with why the mother was carrying the litter, because she was often pregnant.
Yeah.
The fact that he was 10 of 12
Okay.
made
Now, Harry, take a look at that.
children of the older
Do we? Tell me if we're got that.
It's not in
Yeah, I'll
focus. so-
show them the pictures I made. They want to have the whole map here.
That's, okay. Now you can,
Okay.
Okay.
Drop
Show
it,
the town that he was.
He was born in Surabaya, that's
Right.
here. Later on, they moved to Malang.
Okay.
When you were 2 years old, because his father was retired, well, in a small place in the area. And they went up in the mountains somewhere here. It's so tiny, it's somewhere up in the mountains. And that is what I was talking about his vacation.
Oh yeah.
Later on, we go
You see
to
Jakarta.
Bandung and to Jakarta.
Okay.
So that you know where those are when he talks about.
And when he
Those
was
places.
a captive, where was the?
In Surabaya, hè, Mappie? Yeah,
Oh,
in
back
Surabaya
then.
here.
Oh, okay. All right. And then I don't know if we can see down here the relationship to Java, to Sumatra, and those other places would
Well, this is Sumatra.
be. Okay. Yeah.
This is Kuala Lumpur. That's Malaysia.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
here.
Yeah, okay.
Singapore.
Yeah, I'm looking for Singapore if I can find Singapore.
Yeah, it may not be on there.
it's not far, it's too far
It's too
north.
far out. This
no,
is
here
too-
it is.
this is
It's right down there.
Oh, here.
Yeah, Singapore
Yeah.
right there.
Your printers are so beautiful.
Okay.
I showed them the
Good, thanks,
prints.
But the printers
Yeah,
need my.
I showed them the prints. So.
Okay.
You want to readjust the
I will.
the focus one.
Okay, now that looks good. All right. So, what's the schooling like? Do they have like a grammar school and then a high school and a college, or how was that over
Yeah,
there?
well, to compare with the schools here, we have this the firm school, the
Grammar school, lagere
grammar
school,
school, then a normal school,
the high school,
and then
college after that.
kind of college.
Yeah,
Yeah.
We have not a college there, but
it's
the
different.
same.
Yeah. Mhm.
Did you like to play any sports when you were growing up?
very much, yes. I am very, I very like tennis and hockey.
Field hockey.
Field hockey.
Field hockey, we
Yeah.
don't have snow there.
Right.
And it is a pity that
Doe je handen een beetje weg.
we skipped things,
Well, that's okay.
but anyway.
Tell them about what you did for the hockey club when you were working at the KLM.
Well, you have to say first, when I came back from Japan, we had immediately to make us ready for a new war against the Indonesians, because they wanted their independence. So there was a lot of shooting and killing.
I'll tell you what, let's pick up on that later. Let's run on back. Let's get back to, okay, you were in school. What year did you graduate from, let's say high school, whatever you call it, normal school, whatever it is?
What did we say? 16 and
So you would have been about 1932?
1930, yeah, I think.
In around that?
Yeah, mhm, yeah.
So what did you do after you graduated, when you finished school? Did you go to college, or did you?
Yeah, that was including college,
That
because,
was
you know, the schooling works different over there. So
Okay.
by 1913 he had about 14 years of schooling, which is 10 years is high school. It's not 12 years, 10 years.
Oh, I
And then
see.
he started school when he was 5 years old.
Oh, okay.
So,
Yeah. So when you finished college, then what did you do? And when you were in college, what were you studying? What did it that you wanted to be?
No,
Business.
my main goal was business.
so he majored in business.
Majored in business, yes.
Okay.
The financial situations over there were as bad as right now here. Because, for instance, where's the paper? I show you. From the Commander of the Marine. Give me this paper, please.
Excuse me, can you turn it up? Okay,
So I was looking for a job, of course.
Yeah.
And just
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll always eat that.
I found a job
Nothing special.
in a gosh. "66 years old."
Marie, why don't you put those aside? Put those aside and
Yeah.
just answer the
I want to show
questions.
them the
Je maakt je alleen maar zenuwachtig. Sanne.
certificate
I can see.
bij de commandant van de zeemacht. Zo van bijvoorbeeld 2 gulden per dag.
Marie.
The commander of the Navy, that he had, I got a job at the commander's room, and my salary was half a dollar a day. Half a dollar a day. So I tried then to earn some more diplomas. I got diplomas starting from the bottom
It's okay.
for typing, stenography, bookkeeping, English correspondence, Dutch correspondence, and from that job, it was a terrible job. From that job, what year are we then?
That was after the war, isn't it? Or you're talking now before the war. You're talking before the war when you came out of school, yeah, because there was a depression.
Depression and everything. Tell me, do you remember what you were doing on December 7th, 1941,
Yeah.
1941.
when the Japanese attacked Pearl Harbor? When did you hear? How did you hear about that? Or
I was tested right away.
Yeah, but do you remember where you were or what you did?
Yeah, in the city of Surabaya.
where?
And we, like I said, we were the first country who declared war to Japan, because it happened here on the 7th of December, but in our country it was already the 8th.
Right. And did you realize? I'm sure you probably did. The Japanese were threatening
Yes.
you
yes.
guys because they were pretty close to that area and all.
And I can tell you that the Navy, I have to tell you this, that the Navy there was a Dutch Navy, there was an American Navy, there was an Australian Navy, and there was a British Navy. Altogether, I think about 6 or 7 ships.
14. 14 you told me.
Okay.
14.
And the Japanese came with about 34 battleships. So our commander said, he announced that was later famous in the history of the Dutch, that he said, I attacked, follow me. So Holland attacked the 34 ships, and it was of course very courageous
Courageous.
then, but we lost the war completely. So there was no navy anymore, but the Japanese had not yet landed, and then they made me a marine, because there was no navy. So I exercises with the marine in the inland of Java, between the mountains, and how to protect ourselves. We also did this on the harbor of Surabaya, where we expected parachutes coming from the Japanese. We put the bamboo in the ground with a very sharp point. And there were so hundreds of those things next to each other. If one was fallen on that spot, he immediately was killed. So, and one day, while we had exercise in the shipyard, I saw a high tower, and so I said, well, I'd like to see what's to see there. So I climbed a high tower, about 100 feet or something. It was an open tower, and I had a beautiful view over all the workplaces of the Navy. Hundreds of workers were working there. So I picked up the phone in the tower and talked with my commander. Told him that what I saw. So he was so glad. But that was a big mistake that I did so, because with every attack from the Japanese Air Force, bombs were sort of falling all over, and I was on open door. Everybody was going into the ground and shelter, and I was going up in an open spot. Oh, that was in the beginning very difficult, but.
Now, the ship, Teddy, that was next to the tower, what
Sure,
happened to
Martin.
that ship?
There was a ship next to the tower.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed. There were several, but there was one ship right next to the tower. And if the Japanese came with the with the bombers, usually they came with 5. I looked so in the
Mouth of the cannons.
what do you call that?
Mouth of the cannons, I think.
In the cannons of the.
Yeah, the opening of the cannons.
Oh, the gun.
Yeah.
So I have to scream then because hey, I am here.
Because they were shooting.
I looked so. And that happened for weeks. But
Well, did the ship
And,
get hit?
I beg your pardon.
Did the ship get bombed?
No, what was happened? They missed the ships, but there was one ship, was a cruise that was against the wall of where the ship was
Anchored.
anchored, and there was one bomb that fell right in the opening on the top of on the deck, an opening, and the bomb went there and damaged the whole ship from the bottom. But from the top, nothing was wrong. And because of that, the Japanese came every time they, not knowing that the ship was already worthless.
Did the Dutch have much of an air force? Did you guys have many planes?
Well, I'll tell you, the Americans sent off very nice planes, but they were still unopened on the road when the Japanese came. It was very silly.
But there was an air force because
Yeah, sure.
his nephew
I tried to become a pilot myself.
Did you?
And I was already so far. Usually the captain told me it takes 2 days. But when he examined me and so on, said, no, you know what, I go on this afternoon, so that's over. And the last test that I had to do was, they took blood from my body, and then they put me in a spot where they can pressurize
the chamber. Yeah.
the chamber. And then after about 3,000 foot high,
30,000 probably.
30,000 foot, yeah, they took blood again. And then the captain said, oh my God. I said, what happened? Your blood didn't change at all. It stays the same color. He said, and the growth of your heart is not going as your best. So he said, come back next year. I was very, very sad about that, but anyway, that was one thing. And
When did the Japanese actually invade?
Invaded. Yeah. They invaded more or less.
In May, I think it says somewhere in there. I think it was May 41
But they landed,
42.
or 42. Yeah.
Yeah.
but they landed
Sorry.
more on the West Java.
Did they?
And we were on the East Java, and we were fighting them on the land. They came with planes and we shoot them, we shot them. And they They came from little villages, the Japanese, and we were in those villages, and we could kill them. But then it happened that the Japanese, it took them too long to wipe us out. They told our main commander, if you don't stop killing my soldiers, I bomb the city itself. Same thing as what happened in Europe when the Germans couldn't get everything they wanted right away. They bombed Rotterdam. There's 30,000 people in the middle of town, completely dead. So when the Japanese demanded that, so we had to stop. And then we learned that we have to report ourselves, and that was on March 9, 1941.
No, 42.
42.
42. And so you just have to go to a place where we usually in peacetime had a very nice
It was like a fair.
very nice fair
Mhm.
for the children and for and nice stores from other cities and other countries there. But we had to report ourselves there. And anywhere we couldn't leave home.
You couldn't leave anymore, you were taken captive.
Yeah, we were just getting captive there. And people, I had a younger brother, and they said, if you don't,
Go there.
if you run away, no problem, we pick your brother. And my mother, so we didn't think to do that, although we could run, but where to?
Teddy, would you have reported to the Japanese in your Dutch Marine uniform, or would you have changed out? And what kind of clothes would you have, would they have known you were in the service when you?
Well, we had our own costume, of course. I had a Marine costume for Marine.
Okay. So uniform.
You were in your uniform
Yeah.
when
Uniform.
you,
Well, probably if they'd have found, I suppose they could shoot you for a spy or something like that if you were in the military but didn't try to hide the fact from them, I suppose. What about the rest of your family? Did they all go to prison camps too?
When we had to report, my elder brother was put in jail, just in jail. My younger, another brother was in the island of Borneo. He was there, a prisoner. And
Was he at Sandakan in Borneo? Was he at a place called Sandakan in Borneo? Do you know?
No,
Okay.
it was Pontiac.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, and we else we had
Pay.
with the brother.
Yeah, he went to Japan.
Yeah, he was in Japan, and because we talk about it, just last month he died. He was 96 years. He died on his birthday. Right.
And then you had one brother who was too young.
No, yeah.
Well, and the girls, did they have to go to prison camps, any of those, or your mom or
No,
anyone?
my mother, there were women camps too,
Right.
women camps. And everybody was hungry. And it happened that one day that a lady, prisoner, a woman, had chance to change some of her clothes or whatever for food from outside. and she was caught by the Japanese, and they said, "You come over here." Middle in the plane in the camp, they shaved her completely bald. It was pity, but the next day there were 10 other women who went to the same commanders. "We want to have a haircut," and the commander said, if we had to fight the women, we had lost. Yeah.
And tell me what it was like in the prison camp, and were you in, and where was the prison camp that you went to?
The first, I reported myself on March of the 30th. And then after about 6 months, I think, they shipped me and some others to Singapore. In Singapore, by the British, we were there 1.5 months
In a Changi camp.
in Changi camp. And
What kind of camp?
Changi?
Changi, Changi.
That was the name of the camp?
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
And in that camp, I saw beautiful coconut trees, with nice coconuts, and we were so hungry, and said, "Well, okay, I'll climb." But that was hard. It was fine, it was very lot of strength, and we came there. And if you come on the top of the tree, well, you cannot pick them because it's a big
Stem.
stem on it. So I just cut the,
You turned
yeah,
it, right?
I just hold the trunk with my hand and with my hand. I just tried to find it again, but it was that tight. So I said, I better go back because otherwise I will fall. And I try backwards, but I couldn't stand anymore. So I let loose. So I went through the rough trunk. This was completely yeah.
I wanted to ask you, prior to World War II, were there many Japanese people living in
They're
Dutch East?
beautiful stores, very, and cheaper than others. We didn't know that they were, the salesmen, they were officers. We didn't know about it. We didn't expect it to war at the time, of course. And when I was working, after before I was drafted, I worked for a technical firm who was specializing in a product by the name Bosch, B-O-S-C-H. That's from German. And the head of the store was a German. No, Austrian. And the technical guy was a German. So when in Holland,
Now, when the war broke out,
when the war broke out, yeah,
World War II broke out, and then they were both picked up because they were Austrian and German.
Mhm.
And
This would be like in 1939.
yeah, something like
Right.
that. And then they were both taken to prison, and he brought, one of the guys, he brought a suitcase with clothes, because he had nothing, you know, he was at his work and he was picked up. So he went to the guy's home and he asked his wife, "Well, pack me a suitcase with whatever he needs." So his wife did that and he brought it to prison. Well, he didn't know, but he found out later there was a revolver in that suitcase.
Oh.
Yeah. So.
Teddy, the language that was spoken, did everyone, when you went through school, just speak Dutch, or were you bilingual with the native languages also?
No, just Dutch.
So the business language, even with the
Yeah,
Japanese?
later on, of course, higher up, you could choose French, German, English.
Yeah, but not. The question is, what was the language you spoke over there? That was Dutch.
Dutch.
But
Dutch
with the servants.
and Malay, and that's
Yeah.
the language of the people from the country.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder, did many of the natives collaborate with the Japanese during the war?
Well, the Japanese were fighting the Indonesian also on certain moments, because I remember that an Indonesian, he had a flag, red and white is the color of the Indonesian.
Flag.
He had it in his purse here, and the Japanese saw that, and he took it out and he said, "Open your mouth." He put it in his mouth. And another way that the Japanese were really, really very, very very cool was that on November the 11th, in 1945, I think.
But were that the Japanese, that were the Indonesians
No.
that did that?
No, Japanese.
Oh.
On the 11th of November 1945, they took the 10 men from the street in Surabaya, took them out of the home and brought them to a very large dance floor from a great big Dutch club. In a normal situation, that was a very nice clubhouse as war. So they took 10 men, put them on a roll, then they went back and took the women of the men,
The wives.
the wives of the men, took them all, put them also on the dance floor. And then what the Japanese did, they took the bayonet and they killed the men piece by piece in front of their wives. That's what's happening.
Maybe it was 1944 rather than 45 or sometime before
Yeah.
that. Yeah.
Mhm.
So you were at Singapore. How long were you there?
In Singapore it was 1.5 months.
And then where did you go
And
from there?
then from Singapore they put me on a ship. On the bottom of the ship, and we went from Singapore to Nagasaki. I landed in Japan, Nagasaki, on December the 8th, just on the day that America.
A year later.
Mhm.
Oh.
Yeah.
And
Wow.
then we came in the harbors of Nagasaki. We had to wait for a train, and we were sitting in a station on the ground. We had no food, no drink, nothing. And about 8 o'clock in the evening, the train came, and we went in the train, and they took us to Kobe, Osaka. That is the shipyard.
Oh, right.
That was our original place to work for the Japanese.
Nagasaki is pretty cold in the wintertime, I think. Was Osaka the same climate?
Especially for us who live in the Dutch East
Right.
Indies where there is no cold.
I know because they had the Winter Olympics close to there a few years ago.
Yeah.
Now, Osaka, is that in the same kind of climate? Was it cold there too, or what
Oh,
was
yeah.
that?
Close, really close.
Close by.
Same thing. Kobe, Osaka. So we worked on the shipyard, and
What was your job in the shipyard, Teddy?
yeah, we got tools, such big tool. The tool itself we could hardly carry,
Yeah.
but we had to make the irons that has to be together.
L brackets you made. L brackets.
I don't know what it means.
Like
Well, we can-
angle iron
yeah,
or something like that,
yeah,
brackets
yeah.
for.
And we had to screw them.
Mhm.
And then later on they
Were welded.
used welders.
Mhm.
And you were not allowed to look at the welders, but we were surrounded by welders. It's terrible. You come home in the evening, if you wake up, you could open your eyes.
It's so
You
bright.
have to turn it open because of the welding.
What would they have fed you in that
And that
particular? What would they have fed you? What would have been your food that you would have eaten, and how
Oh,
often?
the food was rice with seaweed, just rice and seaweed.
Mm.
Have.
And
So-
were they all, was it an Allied camp? I mean, or was it just Dutch
No,
prisoners?
we had Dutch, we had Austrish, we had the British, we had American.
And did the Dutch stay together? Did they have you separate, or do you all kind of mingle up? In
We
the,
tried to put the Australians together, but it became one big thing.
Mhm. But I think what you told me was that they put the Americans and the Dutch together and the English and the Aussies together.
Yeah, after the war.
Oh.
now, was there a structure to hire? I mean, did you have somebody running? I mean, like a captain or somebody in charge, and then in your camp? I'm not talking about Japanese. I'm talking about your own guys.
No, we don't have. We were lucky we had one guy who talked a little bit Japanese, so he could tell us things that we otherwise didn't know what the Japanese said. But no, we had the Aussies were as much as possible together, the Americans too and the Dutch too.
Did you get any news from the outside how the war was going on at all?
No. And that was,
The 80-year war.
yeah, that remember, while you're talking that, at that time we were thinking about the war in Holland. Holland had a war against Spain for 80 years. 80 years. So we said, oh my gosh, if we know
You're going to be here for 80 years?
Teddy, was it a life or death thing in the camp? Did a lot of people die, or were the Japanese a little better there?
No, they were just in the food. But
Just not enough to eat.
you don't die, but
So he lost a lot of weight.
Let's hold that thought. I need to. Okay. So we're going to talk about. Is this a friend of his in the shipyard?
The Sam you were talking about. No, this happened. One of the guys in the camp, he
camp,
was
yeah.
in, and yes, they all became friends. Yeah.
Sam was one from West India. He was black, more from the Dutch West Indies.
Yeah.
Suriname.
And he was very strong, but he couldn't
Stand the cold.
he couldn't
Stand the cold.
stand the cold.
Yeah.
And one time he was able to change his raincoat on the shipyard. There's another Japanese guy for food. So, but he was caught.
Oh.
And he was brought to the camp, and he was hit and over hit. But since he doesn't care, hitting doesn't care. So when we went back to the camp, he was hit again. But there was a Japanese, was a prisoner of war, Dutch prisoner of war from Suriname.
Ja, oké, dat hoef je niet op.
No.
No, okay.
What he's talking about, he had a friend who was a
I
black guy
know
from
the
the
story.
West,
Yeah,
or, you know,
he knows
from
the
the
story.
West
I know the
Indies.
story.
Yeah, okay.
Everybody was looking for extra food somewhere. And anyway, he was hit again. And when he came back in our camp, he was hit again. But he just stayed calm, and that aggravated the Japanese more. Instead of that he was crying or screaming. So they say, you know what, Sam, take off all the clothes, put it naked.
Star naked.
And there was in the middle of the winter, and there was one room, solid doors, or solid windows missing.
Without doors and windows.
They put them there. There's no fire, nothing.
In the cooler.
And he, after a day, he started screaming because he couldn't hold it anymore. Yeah, it was a very, very unpleasant scream. And 2 days later, screaming stopped. Yeah, why? He was dead.
Oh.
It's just dead.
How many people would have been in that camp?
Yeah, I wish I could answer that answer.
Well, we figured it out. We thought, we tried to read the scenario,
Yeah.
and we think there were about 80 people in a hut, yes, or a barrack, whatever you want to call it. And there were 6 of those barracks. So we think about 500 people in that camp, but how many camps there were altogether, I have no idea.
Maybe 400.
Did you find any of the guards that might have been Christians and been better than the average guard that showed?
No, but we noticed sometimes that the Japanese were also tired about the war. And then your Henshaw, that is the guy for whom you work on the shipyard, he said, oh, America, boom. Yeah, good, boom. I said, oh, that's for the first time I heard something.
Did any of the Japanese speak Dutch?
No.
Or probably some of them spoke English, I would think. But
And one time I was working with a Japanese guy with electric machines
On the shipyard.
on the shipyard. And we had to cut, I call it, maybe there's a special name here, it was iron,
Yeah, an L bracket we figured out.
An
An
L
L
bracket.
bracket, yeah.
Mhm.
Mhm.
and I had to cut them maybe long, very long things, and I think about so high for a special reason. Cut it. And if there were already a lot here, then I just called
Crane.
the crane. The crane came, picked it up, and brought it somewhere else. But what happened sometimes, I had a young man from Indonesia, that will say, he was from Madura. He was,
Doesn't matter.
doesn't matter. But anyway, he was my helper. And one time I had got several one, and then I called the
Crane.
crane, and he put the iron around the iron, and the crane started
Ja.
to pick the iron up, and I saw that with his hand also on the bottom. He said, stop, no, it was, no.
His finger
That
was
is-
in between
God,
the, the iron that he had bundled, or
Mhm.
And
he lost his
I
finger.
had to take him to was a hospital.
Yeah.
And in my presence, he cut, it was the ring finger that he cut.
Talking about a hospital, you make them think that there was a hospital, really. Your doctor was what?
Oh yeah,
A veterinarian.
veterinarian,
Yeah.
a Dutch doctor. And
Could you get sick? I mean, if you got sick, would they let you stay in the barracks, or did they make you work?
Yeah, in the first place, in the winter, several of us died because we had lice, and it was terrible as you feel. So what you could do is went outside, take off your clothes, and hang them out, and the lice
They died.
died also. But the person who was standing there for maybe 15-20 minutes, he caught a cold in the middle of the winter without clothes. So then if you see him next day, he's not in. Where is he? Oh, he's sick, got a cold, and several days later died dead.
Mhm.
Did you, as we're getting towards the end of the war, do you remember seeing American planes flying over?
Oh yes, and how? Maybe the first 3 years or 2 years, we didn't see any plane. And one day there was one plane, and we said, "Oh, that is here." We was looking where to throw the bomb. But if we look, so the Japanese came and sprayed that.
They hit you on the
They
head.
never lost.
That shipyard couldn't have lasted long once the American planes started coming. I mean, that would have been a perfect target.
Mhm.
Well, on February the 27th in 1945, I think, yeah, they came with, I don't know,
Firebombs.
so many planes. It was in the evening. And they just threw bombs out like they are
Matchsticks.
matchsticks. And we said,
They were firebombs, huh?
firebombs, they were just not, they were just firebombs. We got one firebomb through the roof, through the table, on the ground. Just did this. And we were lucky that the guy came just from the toilet and threw his blanket on top of it. But we had 6 bombs in our camp.
Oh, you did?
So,
Then you couldn't work in a shipyard anymore at that
yeah,
point.
that's right.
And then
Yeah, and wait a minute, was a nice thing. But the Japanese expected, of course, to be bombed sooner or later. And so they exercised how to extinguish the fire. And you know how they did that? They put a stick,
a pole.
a pole on the ground, and on the top of the pole was a bell. Then they, with a bucket to
There's
take
water.
amber, they had to walk to the pole and try to
To hit the bell.
hit the bell. That's so stupid. we were laughing with each other.
Was there much humor at all in the camp, Teddy? Was there much humor in the camp? Were you able to find things to laugh about?
To laugh about.
You know,
No, we talk day and night about food. Do you know, remember that restaurant at the corner there? You know what I did? I used to, because I have a big family, also was a birthday family, then there was extra food there. So, and I tried to remember that in a prisoner of war camp. So if I know today is the 14th,
Mhm.
and say on the 30th is one of my brothers or sisters' birthday. So what I do then is I gave my bowl to somebody else, and they like to have it, but one thing, I want it back on the 30th of the month. Okay, and so on the 30th of the month, I couldn't believe it. I had food.
You had sometimes 8 bowls.
The next day I had diarrhea. Yeah.
Did any Red Cross parcels come into the camp at all?
Oh, yes. When we were bombed by the B-29s. They threw parcels. And what was so nice, on August the 31st, which was the birthday of the Queen, the parachutes had the colors of the Dutch flag, red, white and blue. That was so special. The Americans were at that moment so appreciated. But when they bombed it the first time, the Japanese, they couldn't find the planes, and then the bombers put on the lights on the plane, like to say, here we are.
Yeah, but talking about the food that they dropped, what did the Japanese do with it?
Yeah, the Japanese, of course. Instead of one parcel for each, one parcel had to divide by 4. And then, of
And
course,
the rest went to the Japanese.
the Japanese took it, the rest. But then divided by 4. And how many fights happened because of that? Because one was a little bit more than the other.
Yeah.
No, the same as the rice bowls. When they served the rice in little bowls like that, and they were out on the table or on a place wherever they served, and some of the grains of rice fell in between the bowls. Well, they started fights about, no, this is my grain of rice. No, it's mine. And then they measured, well, it's closer to my bowl, so it's mine. That's how hungry they were. Well, talking about hunger, your story about the fish from a shipyard.
Yeah. It is really unbelievable how you can go down so far. After we had the lunchtime to eat our bowl,
There's rice and seaweed.
the Japanese
Louder.
had also their lunchtime, and what they didn't eat, they saw it in the trash can. And so the fish that you eat, they eat only the middle part, from the head and the tail. That's trash can. And we saw that, wow. So as soon as lunchtime was over, we went to pick it all
Out of the trash.
could find, and went to hide, in the toilet. But the toilet was not a normal toilet, it was a hole. And everybody lived in the hole. And that what fell was higher than the... So you stood with your legs, so far that you didn't hit the dirty things. So then they eat.
The fish. The bones and the head. And,
Well, Teddy, if the shipyard was blown up or not usable, what did they do with you then?
Yeah, when the shipyard was bombed, there was no work. And no work, they said, that is not possible, no work, no food. There were trains, no work, okay, we stop, no food one day. Anyway, after the shipyard was bombed, they said, we had to put you in the train, and they went to the coal mine, Fukuoka coal mine, and the station was Iskra. In the coal mine, oh, that was hopeless. No, a normal coal mine had the 24 hours divided in 3 times 8 hours. And normally you have a train to pick up the coal and then by train to the top. All coal mine, no train.
And you had 2 shifts of 12 hours.
Yeah, and we had 12 hours. 12 hours working in the coal mine, and then with almost no food. After 12 hours, back up.
822 steps up.
But there was no train, so walk. 822 steps down after working 12 hours and hardly any food. 822 steps up. We tried also, if the train was passing, to grab it outside. It was not a normal train, outside, so you don't have to walk. But that is very dangerous because sometimes the train, if this is the top of the mine and the train passes, so you can lose your head.
How much did you lose weight to, Teddy? Teddy, what did you weigh by now?
Yeah, well, it looks like, if you see the pictures, what happened in Germany with those Jewish people, something like that.
Yeah, I
you
had
didn't
no
have-
idea what weight, there was no scale or anything like that, but
If someone died, did you have to bury him, or did the Japanese just...
No, that happens one time, that we just were born by the Americans with food, and everybody was glad to get food, food. And the doctor came, said, who wants to pick up the ashes of John so-and-so? And well, nobody said something, but when I listened, I said, okay, doc, I'll do it. Because I never had done so, I want to know what it is. So I got a box, a wooden box, so big, with a lid, and I got a paper. And I walked to the cemetery.
crematorium.
Hmm?
Crematorium, actually.
Yeah, where they
Yeah, burned, cremated the bodies.
the paper, when I came there, you saw 2 iron doors, and an old man was sitting there. I showed him the paper, said, okay, in that door, so that I don't take the wrong ashes. So we went into the door, and we pulled it open. There was a bed, just a bed, but from iron, an iron bed. And then you see and just like ashes of a cigarette, that color, the whole body was.
Go ahead.
Anyway, so, and the doctor had said, you cannot put everything in the box. The box was too small for all the bones. But take every tooth that you find, pick that, because that will not burn. And so the Japanese want to give me some
Chopsticks.
chopsticks. I couldn't do this, so I did it with my hands. And he said, start from the top, piece of the head, piece of the breast, and so you go on. And then the ribs were pretty long, well, too long, okay. You just
Break them in pieces. Break them in pieces.
break them in pieces. And I thought, if his family would have seen this, terrible.
So did you bury the box somewhere? What did you do with the
No,
book?
the box was just stored in a special room by the Japanese. That's the name of the, so probably to send back, send to the family or just kept themselves.
Tell about when you were too sick to work, what you had to do. In the hills. You had to dig a cave.
Yeah, one time, what was it? How come that it? Oh yeah, what happened was, I was working in the ship, on the ship,
No coal mines.
in the shipyard first, and I fell over iron, and I had a streak, a whole
Stripe on his leg.
stripe of red of blood all the way going on here. And the doctor said that you have a poison. So he treated me with, I don't know what.
Well, he operated on him for 3 times without anesthesia because that was not available.
There was no,
But anyway, then you couldn't work, and then
Oh,
they
yeah.
sent you.
Well, let me ask, was the doctor, was he a Japanese doctor
No,
or
the
a prisoner?
veterinarian.
A veterinarian, he
The
was the vet,
veterinarian.
okay.
Mhm.
Yeah.
a Dutch, he was a Dutch
Yeah.
doctor.
Right.
And then he was afraid that he had cut his tendon so that he couldn't walk anymore. But that turned out okay later on.
Yeah, there was a bubble. So he took a knife and was such a cut in there, and 2 Japanese had to
To hold you.
him. And so they cut there. And the next day that was gone. But the next spot was another bubble. And when that was done, came a third bubble. A silver bubble. The dates,
Scars.
the scars.
But anyway, talk about the time you had to dig into the mountain.
Oh yeah. Well, after that happened, this cutting my legs there, the doctors, well, they said, I think I make a mistake. He thought he had cut the tendon, this tendon. This I couldn't move my leg with my foot anymore. So the Japanese said, no work, oh, no food, but we'll take it to a spot. We went to a hill with shovels. We had to just open the hill. And later on, it was mentioned to put, if the Americans were landed, they put us in the hole.
They didn't want any evidence of that they had prisoner of wars.
Do you remember did you hear about the atomic bomb being dropped?
Oh yes. Yes. Because they flew over us twice.
You were right in the middle of Nagasaki and Hiroshima.
Hiroshima, yeah.
Did you ever get to Iwakuni?
I beg your pardon.
The Iwakuni was a harbor between Nagasaki and Hiroshima. Did that city ever get on your itinerary when they moved you around?
No.
I
No.
don't think so. And but it happened then that after Hiroshima, I learned later that MacArthur, after he had the atomic bomb in Hiroshima, and he told the emperor to stop the war. And several of his assistants from the emperor said, "You have to stop." But he didn't want. Okay, no one.
Duidelijker praten, Obi.
Second atoom bomb in Nagasaki. And then the war ended.
But I mean, at the time, I mean, were you did you know that they had dropped that when you were in the camp?
Yeah.
Did you know that a big bomb had dropped? I mean, nobody really knew what an atomic bomb was or anything, or had you heard any rumors or anything?
maybe, well, first, after the first bomb fell in Hiroshima. Yeah, and then the second one.
Mhm.
But did you hear anything about it while you were a prisoner there?
No.
Were you aware of it? Bobby?
No, we learned from some of the Japanese atomic bomb.
They were talking, yeah. So, when did you know that you were going to be free? How did you find that out?
Well, after the atomic bomb, we got some food drops too. And then we had to wait for the Americans.
And what did the Japanese do? Did they leave the camp or did they stay around there? What did they do?
In our camp, there were some Aussies who were hit by the Japanese guard. And our commander said to the Japanese, "Oh, we don't need you anymore." And so there was no guard. And one Australian found a man on the station,
A Japanese
a Japanese,
guard.
who had hit him, and he couldn't hit back. But then on the station he hit.
He took revenge, huh?
Mhm.
When you say the Americans came, how was that received? What,
Oh, that was really. Yeah, so while we were waiting for people who would take us back, it was in September, I think. And I told you that when I arrived in Nagasaki, we had to sit on the ground, no food, no
Cold.
drink, nothing. And when we were picked up by the Americans, there were some Dutch officers, there were 2 Americans in the Dutch. They put us in the train, and the train went to Nagasaki. And came to Nagasaki, on the same spot where we had so-called, there was an American band. Big band with music. Oh, I couldn't believe it. But on that spot I was so hungry. It was so nice. And the first thing I had to do, sew off all the clothes because of the lice. So take a shower, after the shower, DDT. And after the DDT, you get a new
Clean underwear.
clothes, underwear, and so on. After you have your clothes, next one is a hamburger, nice hamburger. Another one, ice cream. We got walk there, on the spot where I was so sad. Those things. So, and finally, the Lunker Point, which was an aircraft carrier. And we were told, go on the ship.
What was the name of the ship?
Lunker Point.
Lunga Point.
And so we went on that ship. And we were so glad. And then the ship left Nagasaki to the Philippines. But the same day that we arrived at the ship, the commander of the ship said, "Listen, I'm your commander. I'm honored to be the one that brings you back home." He said, "Feel yourself at home." Okay, so after 4 days, we arrived in Manila. Then the same commander came again on the microphone. So once again he said, "I want to tell you that I'm proud that I'm the one that take you take you back. But he said, only one thing I want to let you know for the statistic. You have eaten 4 times as much as my crew.
What flagship was this ship? What country?
Handen uit je gezicht.
Probably an American Lunga Point. It's probably an American, probably a Jeep carrier, I would imagine.
That was
That's
sent.
Did
about
you
the only
have-
ones that are around.
Did you have a Dutch interpreter with the Americans, someone that could understand what you all were saying?
Oh no, in Holland you have to learn English, French,
Oh, so you
Dutch
spoke
and
English
German. Yeah,
well
sometimes,
also?
yeah.
We have to learn French,
Yeah.
German, English,
Mhm.
and I talk Indonesian
And of
too.
course
yeah.
Indonesian, so he knew
Now, when
5
you were
languages.
on that ship, was it, again, the whole mixture, or was it just you Dutch guys on the ship?
What do you mean, on the
On the
Lincoln?
Lunga
Mhm.
Oh no,
You was everybody.
all of them.
all of them.
And I wanted to ask you, did you have any contact with your family or anybody when you were in prison camp?
I still have, I think, a card. My girlfriend in Indonesia sent a little card for me. And there were, I think, only about 4 or 6 persons who received something. And I still have the card.
And what was her name?
Josephine.
Okay. Now, because I meant to ask you if you had anybody special back home, if you were engaged, or had you been married by this time, or when you went into when the war started, or anything?
No. There was no time, I think.
You had a girlfriend.
But you had a girlfriend, Joseph. How long had you been going with Josephine?
So, for God, when I was thrown in the coal mine, I told you that we had no train,
That's right. Yeah.
and one night, part of the coal mine collapsed. 71 Japanese were killed.
But that was the day off. They had off.
There was
One
a
day off
there was
a
day
month.
off.
Oh, you guys weren't there. Just the Japanese were in
Mhm.
there. Wow.
But the very next day we have to go to the same mine. And no, you guys you didn't know. You see, everything black.
But you didn't. While you were in the prison camp, you didn't know what had happened to the rest of your family.
No, not no.
Tell you one thing, when you work in a coal mine, when you go up to the top, you're not very clean. Did you have to live in that type of filth every night, or was there a way to clean up or anything after you were in the mine?
You could take a shower.
Okay.
I remember one day I wanted to take a shower, and I took the towel from the
rack.
from the rack, put it around me, and walked so to the bathroom,
To the showers.
to the shower. And arriving at the shower, I took off my towel and hang it up there. And there was such a big scorpio on my towel. So, I was born November 21st, that is the tail of the scorpio.
Oh. So, from the Philippines, then they shipped you back to Indonesia?
Yeah, in the Philippines, we were there just a couple of days, and our Dutch commander said we have to exercise because we have another war to fight on Java.
Against the Indonesian rebels.
What is now happening in
Iraq.
Iraq? That was the same thing happened in the Dutch East Indies, because the Indonesians wanted their independence.
Right.
So they killed what they could kill, and we had to start again. And my commander started with asking so many of us to march and to exercise. But then the American commander came. He said, "Sir, no, I don't want you to do that." We just came.
Out of one war.
Sure.
When you were in the prison camps, were you still considered in the military?
No, but of course there was several private.
Sure, because you were discharged in 47 out of the military.
I mean, did you get paid for the time you were for that service in the prison camp? Did you get anything?
Yeah, I think about 10 cents a day, something like that.
And up till now, the Japanese won't admit that they are at fault and they don't want to make any restitution like Germany did. But Japan just refuses, and they rewrote their history.
Yeah.
Yeah. So they were the victim.
Had you ever had any interest to go back to Japan and visit any of those places?
You know, one time, after the war, we were still in the camp. The Japanese were hungry too. And I saw a Japanese girl with her baby. And I thought, well, I can do her a favor because I was walking. I took a whole bag of rice, maybe 100 kilo, maybe 200 pounds or so, put it on
A stroller.
on
On
a
a
stroller, and I threw the thing in front of the door. She was so glad. She gave me lady clothes.
Yeah, like
No,
a
not
material, the
not
material.
material.
Material only, yeah.
That's very nice.
When you went from the camp to whatever port you went out of, do you remember where you sailed from in Japan to go back to the Philippines?
Ik heb niet goed verstaan.
Well, do you remember where the Lunga Point picture? At what
Oh yeah, that
place?
was Nagasaki.
At Nagasaki.
Nagasaki.
Could you see the devastation that the American...
Oh yes, you know, Nagasaki, where the atoom bomb was falling. We learned be careful, because nobody knows what
The radiation.
Outcome really is, yeah.
how the atmosphere would be after that. But if you enter Nagasaki, then this is the mountain, as here the atoom bomb falling. This was completely flat. This is nothing.
Yeah. And burned, you know.
This was completely flat and burned. But on this side, so in other words, the beams go this way and not this way.
Go ahead. Could you see what were the people like that? Could you see whether they were still, had any damage to them, burns, or did you witness any of that from the bomb with the people as you went to the port?
You asked what the attitude of the Japanese.
No. If could you see any damage that was done?
Any of them
To-
hurt,
hurt,
birds
yeah.
and everything?
In Nagasaki?
Yeah.
Yes. One,
No, to the people.
or to the people. No, we had hardly any contact with people. It was so nice on the Linger Point when I was from Nagasaki to Manila. I was laying on the deck and I fell asleep. About 5 or 6 o'clock, I felt something. I said, who's that? Oh, it was a sailor who put his blanket over me. Little things that really will remember for the rest of my life.
So when you got back to Indonesia, the Japanese had taken everything you had, right? There was nothing left of.
If niet de Japanese, then also the Indonesian.
And was your whole family collecting back there again? Were brothers and sisters showing up?
No. My brother, one brother I met in Japan.
In
In
Japan?
Japan itself, yeah. Because on a certain, I don't know why,
At the end of the war, yeah?
they said, prisoners of that and that camp are going to visit you. And one of the visitors was my brother. I said, who's doing this?
This was during the war, this was
Yeah,
something
I was just thinking whether it was after the war,
I
during
mean,
the war, I think.
after.
After
Probably
the war.
after the
Probably,
war,
yeah, probably
Yeah.
after. When it was. So do you remember the day that you got home to Indonesia when that was?
Yeah. Well, we left Nagasaki on September the 16th, went to Manila, stayed in Manila for about 1 month.
So were you ashore in Manila? Did you go?
Yeah.
So you were in a camp or a barracks there or something?
No, the Americans had made their huts.
Yeah, the concert huts.
Oh,
No, in a, you know,
Yeah, concert huts.
half a
Yeah.
circle.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And so they took us first to Balikpapan, that is in Borneo, where the oil,
After Manila.
after Manila.
Mm-hmm.
And there we stayed, I don't know, a week, 2 weeks.
Now, was Borneo
I beg your pardon.
was Borneo still half one country and the other half Dutch?
No, that's
No, it
New Guinea.
Or, that's New Guinea, right?
Uh-huh.
So Borneo is
Borneo was Dutch.
all Dutch.
Except the top,
What's
isn't
my
it?
card name?
Except the top. Isn't that Brunei?
Mhm.
Brunei?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I
it's
think
Brunei.
the top is
One of
Brunei.
the-
Very little tiny.
Yeah.
Yeah.
One of the
Yeah.
leaders from Brunei were the most most rich people in the world.
Yeah, he was
Richest,
at one time the richest man in the world.
Oh.
So you're back then with Dutch people.
When I arrived in Jakarta, yeah, the first thing was to put meteen, was really go to the Navy again,
Mhm.
to the Marine Navy. So I was in service again, and what happened also is it happened that for the first time in the history of Holland, there were about 50 girls joining the Navy. They had a special name, called it Malva's. That is Marine.
I don't know.
Anyway, they were just like the boys. Had also a costume, but they
Uniform.
were just girls. And they were placed in a very nice home, 2-story home, that I had lived in before. And they stayed there, but they must be guarded. And I was told by the commander, take a Tommy gun or whatever it was, and you take care of their safety. Or sometimes in the street, the Japanese
No, the
had to
Indonesian.
fight.
Wasn't it the Indonesian
Yeah,
at this
Indonesian.
time?
Yeah, the Indonesian, but terrible. I remember my mother was 80,
No, 70. 70.
and she was in a prison camp with ladies, and when they had to be replaced to another spot, they had to walk, and my mother had a little
Suitcase.
suitcase with all clothes. It was pretty heavy. And then the little Indonesian said, "Oh, I will help, give me a hit. And finally we gave them, and they ran away.
Mm.
It was terrible.
Yeah. So, did fighting break out relatively soon
Yeah.
when you got
Yeah,
back?
there was a complete war. It was a complete war.
Mhm.
I was helped by the commander, by the head of the KLM, the Royal Dutch Airline, because I had founded the hockey club, KLM Hockey Club, and we had to play against another club in another city. But driving over to that city was very dangerous, because in every corner, what the Dutch did, Dutch military did, they just shoot in the corner, in between the trees, because many times there were soldiers waiting for us to be killed. And I got from the commander, from the director of the KLM, I said, we were sitting on the table and everybody looking at I sitting on the table. And his daughter was also a member of my group.
Yeah. Did you get into any fighting yourself? Oops. Did you get into any fighting yourself?
Oh yeah, yes, but it's good that you mentioned that.
Can you stop for a minute? She has to give him some medicine.
Oh, sure. Asking you, did you get into any fighting yourself during this time?
One day when I was working at the shipyard, I had a good day and it went very, very fast, the cutting of the iron. So my Japanese boss said, okay, so that's okay, you can go. It was at about 4 o'clock. And at 4:30 he said, you can go. But I didn't speak Japanese. So when I arrived at the place where we used to come together, to walk into the camp, I came there and the Japanese guards, they looked at the clock and they were screaming and yelling to me, letting me know that I was too early. It was maybe 15 minutes too early there. And I tried to explain to them, Hancho, so Hancho. No. And while I was waiting there for the other people, because I was a little bit too early there, and the Australian group came, and the Japanese guard were talking with the head of the Australian group about me, that I was too early, and so on and so on. And that guy, the Australian guy, was yelling to me, screaming to me, can you keep your mouth shut, because I feel, are we enemies too, or are we together to fight the Japanese? And you're screaming at me. Oh, I was so mad, but you couldn't do anything. But on the walk back to the camp, my heart, I couldn't take that so-called friend was screaming to you in presence of the enemy. So when I came back to the camp, I went to the Australia and I said, I didn't like what you just did there, screaming at me. He hit me right away. And there was so many fighting, and you know that always for the next day, people had
Black
go
eyes
here,
and
go
stuff.
there. And so I was afraid that That's what happened to me. So what I did, when he hit me here. And I hit him this way. It took several minutes, but he was working in the kitchen. So we had good food. He was strong. He was stronger than I am. But anyway, he hit me and I didn't care about this. And every time he come closer, I hit him in his face. Bang. So I fell down finally. I said, well, you might be the winner, but don't think that you can say everything to a Dutchman. So that was over. And at 8 o'clock in the evening, and I couldn't reach it. I couldn't reach it. What is that? I took a paper. I tried to put me air in. I said, what is this? I've never knew. So I was stumbled and went to the veterinarian. And he couldn't do anything. Just calm down. I'm calm enough, but I can't use my breast. It was so painful. Okay, the next day, nobody could see anything on the body, but I was so painful I could scream from the pain, but nobody saw it. And what happened was the Australian fight. Blue eyes.
Don't mess with Teddy, right?
That's right. Oh, guys. Now, when you came back after the war and came back to Indonesia, and there was fighting going on with the rebels, did you get involved in any of the fighting with them?
No, not me, because I only was a guard. I had a guard at home.
Oh, yeah.
So I was stationed there.
Uh-huh.
I couldn't leave that place.
Yeah.
Teddy, what was Indonesia like after the Japanese left? Was it still pretty much the same, or was it kind of destroyed like some of, had they damaged it a lot? Were the buildings still there that you remembered?
No, maybe it was damaged, but it was not so that you really saw something. No, I don't remember.
And how long did the fighting go on with the rebels when you got back? Was it a couple of years? Or?
No, I don't think so. Yvonne?
Yvonne?
Yeah.
The fighting with the rebels and stuff right after, how long did that go on, and what was the result of that?
I think for a couple of years, because Indonesia became independent in 49,
49.
and that was basically how it ended. Yeah.
And how long did you stay in Indonesia? When did you leave Indonesia?
Well, first, of course, now that the fighting was calmed down between the Indonesians and the Dutch, I was looking for a job too, of course, and I will show you the job. I was working in the room of the commander from the Marine.
Right, yeah. Yeah, I saw that.
And for $50 a day. Anyway, so I took several diplomas and so on. And then I got a job with the KNM.
Well, Teddy, had you met your wife, your first wife yet? Have you started a family or anything, or are you still a single man?
When I came back there, Yeah, later on, because when I arrived, I met my oldest brother, and he was crying. He said, "Dad, it is terrible what happened here in the wartime. Every woman all over the place, they had no man, they had no husband who to eat, they had no job. So what they do then was they took them maybe some clothes and tried to sell it in another spot, and from that money buy some food. Yeah, like everywhere, like in Holland too. But you get a connection between between man and wife, and not knowing when the war would end, and the guy helps the wife with the women, this all kind of things. So there was the relation became very, very, very close. And then you get that some get children, and so on and so on. It's terrible. But no, I interrupt myself.
Well, your first wife, what was her name and when did you first meet her?
Yeah, Josephine.
That was Josephine, that was
Josephine.
your girlfriend, yeah, that had, okay. And when did you get married to her?
I married her in 19. I have the papers here.
Was it not too long after you got back from the,
Yeah.
probably within a couple of years?
Yeah, what happened to him? I was still guarding the two
okay.
homes where the women Navy was.
And then one name of stay, yeah. Uh-huh.
And also there was one baroness in between, and the bathroom. I got a whole garage. It was a big one, and behind me was the bathroom for the girls. And one night I was knock on the door. There was the baroness. Can you please help me? Because I had a squirrel, a tame squirrel I had in my garage, you know. And that was loose, it was in
Oh, scared the girls.
But
Were you working still in the military when you met your wife, or married your wife, Teddy?
yes.
And then children followed very quickly?
I beg your pardon?
You had children with your first wife?
Well, my boys, I got a girl first. It was in April 1947. And my boy was from April 1948.
And what were their names, your children?
My daughter's name was Virginia Marjorie, and my son's name was Ted E. Abbink.
And where did they live now?
And he went volunteer to Vietnam, my son. And he, after servicing his time, he could get home, but he didn't want to. He said, no, give me a couple, make me have here longer in Vietnam. Everybody wants to go home, but he said, no. And he stayed there and have here longer. And he was, for himself, he was a realtor, not a realtor for homes, but a realtor for supermarkets and for big buildings. He has 3 children, and his wife left him because he had a nice home. He had a nice home, but for his work he had to go to so many places and then trying to find out how much that this was worth and so on. So he did a good job.
Yeah. I think we're just about done here, so maybe we should take a break. He had talked a little bit about his son, and who has 3 children and did a couple tours in Vietnam, and we were going to talk about his daughter. And what's her name again? Your daughter by your first wife?
Your daughter.
Your daughter, yes.
My second wife.
No, Ayoga.
My first wife.
Uh-huh.
Die hadden uitgezet.
Her name is Virginia Marjorie.
Right. And where does she live now?
She lives still in Holland.
Oh, in Holland. Uh-huh. And does she have any children?
She has how many?
2 boys and 1 girl.
3 children at least.
And then there are already great-grandchildren.
Oh.
So that side blossomed.
And so, when did you leave Indonesia? I guess you left there to go back to Holland
Yeah.
at some point in time. Do you remember about when that was?
Well, if you work by the Billiton company where I was working, I always think of my father, because my father, when we were still growing up, he said, if you are able to, if you're able to work at the BPM, the oil company,
Uh-huh.
they pay good salary and they save money for you. Okay, but when I grew up, I didn't think about it later. But after working at the KLM, when I came back, I was head of one of the parts of the bookkeeping. When I was working at the KLM, I noticed this name, the Billiton Company. I was head of one of the bookkeeping at KLM. So I said, hey, what's this? So I went there, put the solicitation letter. The next day I was accepted. I was head from 3 departments: the expedition, the archive, and
Correspondence.
the correspondence department. But what the nice thing is of this was, if I could put aside, let's say, $1,000,
A month.
whatever time it is, they added 40%. They added 40% to my $1,000. And it was very nice. I worked there, very pleasant. I started with 1 department. Next year I got a 2nd department. I got 3 departments. But what I also got, after 4 years, I got a 6 months vacation, fully paid. And I could go without any expense to Holland, stay there for 6 months, and come back on a boat, no charge, and full salary. So that was extra, very, very good company. And then came when the Indonesian became officially independent. The Billiton company was situated in the Isle of Bangka, Billiton, and Nibem, that is a little island before Singapore. So they officially became, the Indonesian people became officially the owner of those islands. So the building company had to say goodbye to many employees. And I got a very nice letter from them, which told me how much they put in my savings account. And
Well, but tell them when you were the last time with vacation, with your 6 months paid vacation, that you couldn't go back to Indonesia
well,
because you didn't get a return visa anymore. That was because they didn't want the Dutch back anymore. So, and then at that time they lost everything again because he was on vacation in Europe. Lost house, car, clothing, everything. Nothing was left. So that was the second time then that he lost everything and had to start all over from scratch again. So that is how he left in a way. From Indonesia, he left for vacation, but he was never able to come back anymore.
Okay. And where in Holland were you living then?
and Holland, I had a brother in North Holland. I had another brother in South Holland. I had, and the children of my brothers, they also liked to have me come in their home. But I bought a home in Haarlem, in Holland. And
Were your wife and children with you in Holland? They had all went with you when you went on vacation.
No.
I didn't know her yet, because
Answer the question.
she,
Well, okay. When you went on that 6-month vacation, your wife and children, your whole family, all of you went over there to Holland.
Yeah.
Okay. But none of you could go back, so you stayed there.
So then you bought a home in Holland from the money that he had from this company. He bought a home and he bought a bank building.
you know what?
A bank building.
Oh yeah.
It was rented by the Emerald Bank, which was the biggest bank in Holland. And,
So did you stay with that company in Holland? And did you work for the same
No.
one you had been, or you went
What
work
happened then was, then we had to leave the building company, went back to Holland. But so the money that we got,
I told that already.
we could put them in a pension plan or can use it. And one of the advisors from the company itself said, buy a home. So I bought a home, and I bought also a building that was being sold to a bank.
Being rented, you
They
rented
rented
it
it
to the
out.
bank.
They rented it out. So when I was going to divorce my wife, I told her that she could have the whole home, the brand new home, furniture and everything, and also part of the income from the Rotterdamse bank. So that was all good and well. But I think I skipped something.
No, you told something.
No, I think it
about
was,
that.
but, okay, so did you go to work for another company then, or what, after that?
No,
Yeah, for Bosch. You started to work for Bosch again.
yeah,
Willem van Rijn.
but my first job was in the Dutch East Indies with this company, and the owners of this company were Dutch, but their bosses from
Their
Germany,
headquarter was in Holland.
in Germany. And when I was drafted in the Dutch East Indies, I was the only one left in the technical firm that knew all those parts and so on. Because what did the Dutch government do in the Dutch East Indies? All the motorcycles that the police are using, the Harley Davidson, that was for the whole police in the whole Dutch East Indies. When Harley Davidson came in, the first thing that we did was all the dynamos out.
The batteries and so on.
The batteries all changed into German, Bosch.
Oh.
So that's why I could stay. And when I was drafted again, knowing what my position was, they let me go again. And
After the war, when you came back in Holland, you started to work for Bosch again because they had their headquarters in Holland. And that is where you worked.
okay,
And how long did you work there for them?
I have the papers here for God.
5 years.
Oh, okay, well,
Yeah.
a fair amount of time then.
Yeah.
Now we're getting up to mid-50s or later?
Yeah,
maybe?
end of the 50s, yeah.
When did you come to the United States first? When did you first come to the United States?
Can I tell a story? You know, I always wanted to immigrate when I was in the Dutch East Indies. And I thought by myself, you know, where I go, because I want to be away from the whole world. So I said, you know what, go to New Zealand. But for one other reason, when I wrote my friends here in California that they wanted to go, they sent me a letter, stay where you are, because in 1961,
61.
the financial situation here was also not so good. So stay there where you are, but I didn't like Holland. I don't know. I always have problems with them. They had always, the Dutch always think that they are the best in the whole world. So what happened on one day?
No.
Too
Come
long?
on. Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll make it short.
No, don't even go there. Okay? No, don't even go there. You didn't like it, we got married and we went to the United States.
Okay, so you two met there?
In Holland,
Oh,
yeah.
well, okay,
Yeah.
well, let's pick up on that. How did you guys meet and when was that?
Her elder sister married my younger brother. That's why I knew her.
Uh-huh. And we talked about it earlier, but tell me, what was your maiden name?
De Gooier, which is unpronounceable here.
Spell it for us again.
Small caps D-E, and then the second word, capital G, and then small caps again, O-O-Y-E-R.
And just briefly tell me a little bit about your ancestral background.
My mother was German.
And what was her name and her
Her
maiden name?
maiden name was Burk, B-U-R-C-K. She came in 1927, I think, to Holland because she lost both her parents in 10 days when she was about 18 years old. And she had, one of her sisters was living in Holland, so that is why she came to Holland. Well, ultimately she stayed there. She married a Dutchman, my father. And I was born during the war, in the beginning of the war. And of course it was difficult in those days to be either married to the enemy or for the enemy to be living in Holland. My parents hid in their home a Jewish family that were friends. They were betrayed by one of the neighbors, and then the couple was picked up and, well, brought to one of the camps. They were never seen or heard from anymore. And my parents had to flee Amsterdam and had to go and hide out in the country.
We were talking earlier, reminiscent of Anne Frank and how that story came about. What year were you born?
1941.
Okay. So you probably don't. Do you remember any?
Yeah, I have a few recollections here and there. One was, and I don't know exactly the situation, but I presume it has something to do with the hiding of the Jewish friends. In the middle of the night, there was a loud knock at the door, and were German soldiers, and they wanted to see and search the home. And I must have been, little, I don't know, maybe 2 years, 3 years, I don't know. And I remember my mom and dad, plus me, standing up, hands above our head with a big gun aimed at us. And they ransacked the home. Another memory I have is, and that must have been when we fled from Amsterdam in the middle of the night, they had a kind of a cart, and they had piled up, the bare necessities of what they needed, and I was sitting on top of that, and my dad pushed it, and so we disappeared in the night.
Where did you? Yeah, where did
to
you?
live out in the country. Actually, we lived at that time close to the palace of the former queen, and it was out in the country. And they had a big forest around it. And I remember going to kindergarten or something like that. There was no tuition, but we had to bring every day a block of wood to heat up the space.
Yeah.
And so my dad, and with him, of course, all the locals, they went to the woods of the queen, and they sawed the trees down. I also remember sitting in a stroller, and I have no idea if I was 2 or 3 or whatever, and they went into the forest to pick mushrooms, to supplement our food, because that was of course very meager in Holland too. And so they looked for mushrooms, and then they went in a big pot, and a silver spoon was always put in there, so in case there was a poisonous mushroom, the silver spoon would turn black. Well, as it turned out later, that was just an old wives' tale. I remember, for instance, this was still out in the country, and we were living with a farmer's family, and we lived under the rafters, at that time. And I was picked up from my bed, and then we all hid in the cellar, and you heard the planes go over. And there was one stationary bike, and one of the guys pedaled the bike, because then there was light. You were not allowed to have any lights on or so, but this was below in the cellar, and we might not have had electricity, I don't know. But, little fragments like that I remember.
And did you move back into Amsterdam after the war?
Yes, after the war, yeah.
And what did your father do? And what was his name, your dad?
Martinus Wilhelmus.
And what did he do?
He actually, for a while after the war, he had before the war he was a salesman. Yeah. After the war he had a little factory that made alcohol, but not alcohol to drink, but alcohol for cosmetics, like perfumes and colognes and stuff like that. And I don't know if that failed or if he sold it, I have no idea, I was too small for that. Then he started his own insurance company.
Any brothers and sisters did you have?
Yes, I have one half brother and I have 2 half sisters, because my father was married before, but I'm the only child of my mother. Yeah.
Okay, so I guess you went to grade school and high school, and did you go to college?
In Amsterdam, yeah.
In Amsterdam.
Yeah.
And so what did you do when you got out? Or?
Well, I got a training at an exclusive school. After I finished my regular schooling, I went to an exclusive school where they taught again the German, French, Dutch and English, but also in stenography and in correspondence. But basically what it was, they taught you how to dress, how to entertain. So in other words, to be a private secretary of an executive. Yes. We went, for instance, to very well-known fashion schools and learned how to sit and to behave.
A
And
finishing
yeah.
school, so to speak.
Yeah.
We differed exactly 25 years,
Right. Okay.
and we are married next week, 46 years.
Oh, congratulations.
47.
47.
47 years. You cheated on me 1 year.
Were you able, Teddy, to get any acknowledgement for your relationship with the previous king? Did any of that ever come up with your return to Holland?
No. If you got any acknowledgement or from no, because I remember maybe 10, 20 years ago, a man came and he claimed he was the half-brother of the former queen. You know, never got to anything. Of course they won't admit to
Yeah.
anything like that. You know, yes, his grandfather was raised at a court, so indeed at that time the king acknowledged him as his son. But there, and probably you have to cut this out, there were so many princes who were married to queens who had a lot of girlfriends on the side, and the kings did the same thing. Yeah, so.
So, did you go to work for the company that he?
No. I worked for an import-export company. We did mainly business. We imported, but we never saw the material. That was for auto parts and agriculture parts. We mainly imported them from Germany, and then we sold them to England, France, Italy, and Japan. But that we never saw the merchandise. It went directly from the factory to the place of destination where it was sold. Yeah.
And did you get married?
Yeah, while I was working there, yeah, we got married. Yeah, and then after we were married, we were married in April '61, and in May '62 we left for the United States.
Why did you pick the United States over Canada, Argentina? You know,
Well,
I'll tell that.
yeah, but my reason too. You might have a different reason. It's funny. I always dreamt as a small child, I want to live in a country where there was eternal sunshine.
the gloomy doomy over there.
Yes, that didn't go with
That's a
my
good honest
character.
reason.
Yeah, always I wanted to come to
So,
California.
Yeah, why you came to California?
That's right.
Okay, and you?
I told them already I wanted to go to
Yeah,
a
okay.
place
Yeah.
far away from there.
From Holland to get away from there.
But
Now-
always a problem.
Yeah.
But then I decided, you know what, I had some friends here in California. I wanted them to immigrate to California. But they sent me letters, stay where you are, stay where you are. The economy is very bad here. So then, okay, but then I got a letter from a friend. He said, why don't you come? Really, I didn't know what to do. And
We always got those mixed messages.
and I asked the Lord, please help me. I need an answer. You want me to stay here? I stay here. You want me to go? I go. But let me know what is your decision for me. And then one day, I got a friend who,
Tell him about the dream.
about marble. He had a marble quarry
Yeah. Quarry.
in
In
Italy.
Italy.
And he showed me, he sold many of those marbles to come in all colors, even in pink and rose and green and blue. And he sold it to the, like in Holland, what is that?
I don't know.
Uh,
They don't know that big story either. I don't know either.
the big stories, they ordered from him. So he said, Dad, you go to California, take some with you and sell it there. I said, okay. But then I got a letter from another guy, stay where you are. So really I was, and then this guy from the marble, we made an appointment to meet each other in a little city in Harlem to discuss the bijzonderheden. To discuss the
Final details?
final details about sending marble to America. And we were waiting for him, and he didn't show up. So I said that he forgot about it. So I was looking for a telephone. I was walking so, and at that time, Saturdays, the stores are closed in Holland. I don't know. But anyway, I saw a light, and it was
Yeah, an ironworks store where they make wrought iron. Yeah.
and so I went in and said, can I use your telephone? Oh, go ahead. So I called the wife of my marble guy. He said, oh, he left already, he must be there any moment. Oh, thank you. Close. Put the phone down. And I was walking to the outside. But the guy, the owner, he told me, he started a conversation with me. And I said, yeah, I'm in the middle of difficult decisions to make. I wanted to immigrate, but I have 2 children here. He said, man, he said, your 2 children will take care of the government. Go to America, but you shall work very hard, but go. And he talked so about go, that when I met her again, well, he said go. So, okay, so we decided no more talk, we go, okay. The next morning, in front of the door was a letter from a guy
From California.
from California. Please stay where you are. And then that evening, I went to the kitchen, I kneeled down and I prayed. I said, Lord, please, I don't know what to do. Tell me what you want me to do. That same night, I dreamt I was sitting in a train, and in front of me were 2 girls, and next to me 2 men. And one of the ladies looked at me, and then she said, so, go, 3 times. I said, well, that's the answer that I asked him. So I said, I don't care what it is now. You know, when we left Holland, we were, our visa was already
Expired.
But since I was on the ocean to America, the Americans
Yeah, they could still come in.
could accept me. So that was the beginning.
Through Governor's Island?
Yeah.
But I didn't hear.
Well, through New York, through
Through New
Ellis
York.
Island,
Yeah, through New
Rivers
York,
Island,
So, okay, but how did you 2 meet?
Because
Oh,
I
well,
was
that's right.
babysitting.
Yeah, okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I was babysitting my sisters and his brother's kids.
Okay.
And you know who I took with me? My mother. My mother was in Holland. She was 84. And but she loves traveling, but not in a train. In a train she gets sick. But in a car or in a boat, Anyway, so I said, you know what, Mom, you go with me. And she had grandchildren in Texas. So then you stay there, and I go further to California. Oh, she liked that. But the other brothers and sisters, other children said, what are you doing there? You're crazy. My mother is 84 years old. She said, stop, man. I go first to the doctor then. Ask the doctor, can you look at my mother, how she's doing? I wanted to go to America.
For vacation.
For vacation. But all the children were against it. So I looked searched her and checked her. He said, Mr. Abbink, if you don't take her to America, I'll go. So I said, we'll get the other family. So we left and we went to America.
Now, were you two married when he first went to America?
Yeah.
Well,
No, at first we never went back. Yeah, for vacations or so, but
But when did you get married? When did you-
April 61.
April of 61.
And we came here in May 62.
Oh, I see, yeah.
Mhm.
And you came with him?
Yeah.
Okay, all right. And so you came to California, did you?
Mhm.
Where did you come to in California?
Oh, Los Angeles, of course.
Yeah.
And our daughter was born there. I was 6 months pregnant
Oh,
when we came here.
Okay, and your daughter, what's her name?
Amber Angela.
Angela. Yeah, that's where you were talking about naming the street
Yeah,
Amber Lane or something. And where does she live now? And
In Boulder City.
Oh, that's right. Well, we were talking earlier about that.
Mhm.
Yeah. And she's an interior designer.
Interior designer for kitchens and bathrooms.
Mhm. And she has children.
Yes,
She
a
did-
boy of 15 and a girl who is next month 12.
She did the home of the mayor from
Palm Springs.
Oh, she
He
did?
died- he
Yeah,
died
well,
in the
well,
May.
Sunny
well,
Bono. Oh,
yeah.
I'll be darned. Gosh, that was pretty special. And any other children? Do you guys
No.
have? Okay. Yeah. So, did he bring the marble stuff with him? Was that when you
Say
went
that
to
again, please.
when you went to LA? You
Yeah.
talked about marble.
Oh,
That
yeah,
Was
uh-huh.
still is that how you?
Yeah, he tried that for a while, but he came from a country in Indonesia where you did business and there was a lot of money under the table and corruption involved. And so when he came here, he could make offers to, I forgot the names now, but in Beverly Hills because it was expensive stuff.
Broadway,
No,
the other guy,
no, well, I don't know anymore.
the big stars in Sunset Boulevard.
But anyway, he made them offers. He, in one of the places, the assistant buyer was there, and the assistant buyer was very friendly, and he gave him the prices they were paying for their marble. So he could make them an offer that was, they would save, I think, 50%, and they wouldn't pay until all the marble was in and it was inspected by them.
Yeah, because they didn't know me,
Mm-hmm.
and I told them, when you receive the marble in your magazine, and it is according to your taste, then you pay me. Before, I don't want to pay, because they don't know me. And
Well, anyway, he never got the orders. Well, later on we found out, well, they weren't so much different here. The buyers liked something under the table too.
I was about $15,000 cheaper than what they bought.
Mhm,
And I had the tables, I showed them the tables.
mhm. Okay, you said it.
Yeah.
And so,
Then after that,
oh yeah,
we started the business.
and
We
then-
had we like,
wait a minute, we had hoe noemen ze een persoon? If you come in a country,
Sponsor?
You have to have a sponsor.
Mhm.
And there was
we had
a former colleague from the Beatle,
was a co-sponsor.
was a co-sponsor. And I didn't know the other church. The church was the Church of Christ. And
No, the
first-
disciples of
the
Christ.
disciples of Christ in
Kentucky?
no, that's altijd zo dubbel.
Nevada? Atlantic City? Well,
No,
I don't know.
anyway.
It doesn't matter.
Somewhere in mid-America.
Mhm.
So, but I sold one time marble
No, no.
to an architect who built his home. And he said, okay, I want your marble.
No, that was not his home. He was building an condominium complex.
Mm,
Yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
he built
Mhm.
homes and he wanted my marble.
Mhm.
That's the only sale that we did. Because in Sun City, wait,
No, Sunset Boulevard.
Sunset Boulevard, when you ask them,
We have
show them,
gone
show them the marble, and so I told them it's $250.
Mm.
Oh, it's okay, then I can sell it for 500. They doubled the money. So it was, forgot that.
So did you start your own business then?
Oh,
you
yeah.
said? What was that? What kind of business was
I
that?
tell you, when we came in here for 3 days, we were
with our co-sponsors.
helped
Yeah.
with my former colleague from the builder company told me you can stay with me for a couple of days until you find your own home. And but she was pregnant, and the baby was coming, and the lady was a little bit afraid with the baby in the home and with all the problems. So we had to find a spot, and we found a spot not far from their place in a short motel.
No, it was a little apartment. It was a little apartment.
It was 1 bedroom.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Boy, my son was with me, and so my son had to sleep on the sofa because there was no other place. So, and then,
We stayed in that place for I think 2 months, and then we found a nice home that we
yeah,
rented.
wait a minute, she what was her name? Yeah,
Mill
no.
on him.
Yeah, she showed us more or less that the sooner we would leave her, the
The
better
better.
it was. So that's, for me it is all right away, and I leave tomorrow. So, and they had the business, they called it the Hollander company.
She had a business.
She had the business, but it was open 1 day in a week. So, and she asked me, do you want to
Buy
be-
into the business.
buy into business? I said, what kind of business is that? Just some
Spices.
spices
Yeah,
from
take over.
Indonesia and
Mm. Mhm.
kind of things from Holland. So, but once in a week, she sells on that day maybe $50, $60 the dollar. Was nothing for me.
Well, anyway, she had a son who was in the military
Okay.
and who was discharged, and he would drive a car from back
New York-
east
From New York
here,
to
from New
Los
York to
Angeles.
here. It was in the middle of the winter, and we think he fell asleep. And he.
Wait a minute, and he could do that for free.
Well, that
So-
doesn't matter, Mattie. That
Wait a
doesn't-
minute, so they offered him that, so then he don't have to pay any
Mhm.
any
Yeah,
plane or whatever.
right.
So he drove into the backside of a parked big truck. Well,
Backside, front to front.
so he ended up in a hospital and he was in a coma. So our co-sponsor, who had the business, went back to him, and he stayed in a coma for, I think 6 or 8 weeks while they were there, and then it looked like he was coming out of it, but he had to be taught everything again. So she wrote us, well, why don't you sell the business? So that said, well, okay, you know what I do is I'll buy you out, because 2 captains on a ship, that's nothing. So then we bought the business.
Yeah, for instance, sorry, we made also our own ingredients in second. And what the name of our main product, his name is ketchup. And it sounds like ketchup. And it is used the same way. And here in America, every home has a bottle with
Tomato ketchup.
tomato
right?
ketchup.
Sure.
And in Indonesia, every home has a bottle of ketchup.
Of ketchup. That's a soy sauce, an Indonesian soy sauce.
So is that
Well,
which?
that is, so we manufactured some of our own products. But then, of course, all our money that we brought went into the business, and we didn't take any money out of it because everything that came out went back into it again.
Yeah.
So then he started, let me finish maybe this, okay. So then he worked for several months as delivering flowers for a very nice flower shop because
You tell it how it's not right. Okay, I want to show them how we started with nothing.
well, okay,
Tell Simpson.
that's what I am doing.
Yeah, but you skipped a lot of things. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
So he was overqualified for what he was applying for a job. So then there was one flower shop and the manager was a Dutchman. And he said, okay, I'll take you as a flower deliverer for 3 days a week. So that's what he did, I think Friday, Saturday and Monday. And then he got a check for $54. He earned $1.75 minimum wages at that time. And then he didn't even stop for lunch. No, he ate while he was working. That was another $1.75.
You have to tell first that the owners of the store, that the son was almost killed.
Yeah, but
Yeah, you told me that. And then she told me
Mommy, I told this story already. Please, Mommy.
that she told
Yeah, so please, okay.
that she asked me that.
Yeah.
to-
Yeah.
Okay, go
Okay.
ahead.
So one day he was too busy to pick up his check of $54 because when he came home to our business, he had to work there too. So he said, I'll pick up the check next week. So the next week he got 2 checks. And a day later he got a phone call. He didn't have to come back because he was earning too much money. They hadn't realized that $108 was for 2 weeks instead of a 1 week. But it was a godsend after all because at that time the business started to pick up.
But wait a minute, you forgot to say that we had, if a car stopped in front of the business, I said, here comes a customer. But we had also a
Mailbox.
mailbox in front. So we put mailbox.
Stop for the mailbox.
So no, and we sold in 1 week, not profit, we sold in 1 week about $70. That was the whole business.
Yeah, that's how we started.
Whole
that's
business.
Anyway, we are now already, that business is picking up. And then we had to move because the building was sold to an oil company. So we moved into another building and we were really doing well in that other building. And we were approached by a friend of ours who imported at that time teakwood furniture from Holland. So what we did is we started another place of business and we sold the furniture. So now we had 2 different places where we were working.
The consul of the Netherlands visited.
Yeah, came and opened the store for us. It was all very official. And then we branched out. We had another friend who imported stuff from Germany, silverware and crystal, and so.
But we have to tell if we sold some furniture, we have to wait 3 months before the furniture came from Germany. And I said, that's crazy. I can't sell. And people paying and then waiting 6 months. So I didn't like that. So,
Anyway, so finally what we did, because it was cumbersome having 2 places and we were growing, but so then we found a nice store or building in Temple City, which was maybe 10 minutes from where we were at. And we went in there and we combined everything. Well, by this time, we were branching out.
I'm starting with that,
Okay.
but and
We were branching out into, of course, the teakwood furniture from Holland. We had, by this time, exclusive gifts from all over the world. We had drapery materials from Switzerland. We had floor tiles from Holland. And the lobby of the Disneyland Hotel was done with that. We did every bank and every store in our area visit. We had, of course, still the gourmet products from Holland and Indonesia. We imported fountains, ceramic fountains. So
I went to Germany once a year. There was a very big exhibition from several countries. So I said, let's go there and see what I can get.
So that is how we picked up all these exclusive things, yes. So finally we bought the building we were in.
And that have a here for the building.
Okay, and then the day came, we worked hard at this. We worked for 11 days a week. Oh, sorry, 11 years, 24/7 basically, yeah. And then we had all of a sudden 3 different kind of friends. You know, they didn't know each other, but they all knew us. And they approached us if we were willing to sell the business. And we had never thought about it because we were approached by, I have to back up a little bit. We were approached by Universal Studios. And they had an international fair one summer, and if we wanted to participate, so they invited us into the restaurant, and we were sitting next to Anthony Quinn.
Oh.
And we partook in that international fair. We had a whole booth in the shape of one of the houses on a canal, built like that, and that gave us good exposure, of course. Then after that, we were invited by an home show fair in Honolulu, if you want to partake in that. So we did that too. So we shipped everything out by boat over there, and we sold everything we brought over there. We made some new wholesale contacts over there, and we won second prize for our display. So we had come a long way from this little $70 a week business.
And your home, where were you living? What street
Well,
would you live on?
the first place we were living in that nice home that we rented
Right.
was basically 2 doors next to our store.
Oh.
And that is basically where our daughter grew up for the first 2 years.
I put a microphone in the bed of the baby. And the baby was completely alone in the home.
Yeah, you don't dare to do that now anymore.
When we heard the baby crying
From
the
the store.
Yeah. I went home.
Yeah.
And then in '65 we bought a home and we moved the business. We were kicked out because of the oil company. Yeah.
Yeah.
And after we had the business for 11 years, then we had 3 different friends who approached us if we were willing to sell it. We were also asked if you wanted to franchise the business. We thought about franchise the business.
Want to show the
And
building.
we thought about it and decided not to do it because, you know, little kids, little headaches, big kids, big headaches. Same, and were we really wanting to go that way, so we decided not to do it. But anyway, we then said, okay, we'll sell our business. And
Let me show now the business that we started in, that we had a real business. That was in Temple City. It's 5,000
square foot building.
square foot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And what did it here? 7,000. What did it go first?
I'm assuming that your daughter is doing things during this period of time.
She helped us
Yes,
in the store.
yeah,
She's working with you?
yes.
And many
uh-huh.
customers
It's a-
wanted, if somebody bought a gift, she want Amber to gift wrap it.
Yeah, we
But
had a
s-
special
But she's
gift.
learning about quality,
Yes,
things for
yes,
her
yes.
future-
For her future,
for her
yes.
future.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, she often said, later on, she said, I wish you hadn't sold the business. Yeah, but she was too small. She was only 12 years old. And we decided, well, maybe it's a good time to sell. We still have now some years to enjoy life. Yeah, you can work and work and work and earn more and more and more, but then is enough. And we decided it's
I
enough.
felt that when I was 20.
Did you act upon it?
And you guys, well, you mentioned that he liked to play tennis. Did you play
Yes.
tennis also?
I did before I knew him, but I had an accident while I was working on one of the houses on the canal I told you.
Oh, yeah.
Well, they have stairways, they were made out of marble, and my heels slipped, stiletto heels at that time, slipped away from under me, and I bumped on my tailbone on the marble steps all the way down.
Ooh,
So
that hurt.
that was the end of that.
Where did he play tennis?
Not in. Did you play tennis in Holland?
No, I mean in California.
Oh, in California. He played here in Fallbrook.
Oh,
Not while we were working. There was no time for
no,
that.
but once you sold, did you move down this way
Yeah, when we
immediately, or what?
sold, we looked for property around here. We always, where we live, and we went to San Diego, we always came through this area, and we liked it. It was hilly, it was rural, it was green.
Yes.
So we started to look here, and that was how we found it. We always say we were guided by the Lord. If people ask us,
Sure.
how did you find this?
And you told me a little bit about how you found it or what it was like. And let's talk a little bit about that, what it was like when you moved here, and when was that, how long ago?
We bought in the end of 1974, because that's when we sold our business. And we started to build in beginning of 76, but what we did is, we thought, we have plenty of time to sell our home. It takes maybe half a year before our house is ready. So we can afford to ask a
And
price
where was your
in
house?
Duarte.
Duarte, okay.
And,
Do you remember the street, the
yeah,
address?
Deer Lane Drive.
Deer Lane
Uh-huh,
Drive.
yeah. And well, when we put it on the market, the first weekend we had 2 different couples fighting over it. So one couple said, well, we are not in a hurry because we first have to sell our home. So that was great for us. Well, a couple of weeks later they came back and they said, well, we sold our home and we are kicked out. So then consequently we were kicked out. We bought a trailer and moved the trailer here on the property while we were
We were
building the
looking
home.
for, we were looking for one home with 1
Acre.
acre, that's
Yeah.
it. And we looked all over here, and finally, when we went on mission, we always saw a sign for sale, but was always closed, always closed. And finally, then we went to the top of,
On Rainbow, in
On
Rainbow, it's
Rainbow.
part of Fallbrook.
and we found a 4 acre lot. So okay, then you could see the ocean from that side. So okay, then we accept this, we do this. So we went back to the realtor, and we passed that same realtor that was always closed. And I passed it and looked, hey, it's open. And backwards and open. So I came in and said, listen, I want to buy a home and an acre. Oh, Mr. Abbink, I'll show you here, 5 minutes from here. There's a girl for sale, 18 acres. I said, wait a minute, 18 acres? I need 1 acre and nothing else. I'll show it to you. You will not be sorry if you buy it. Okay then. So he took us to here, and the inland road was here.
Yeah, there was a dirt road right here. Through
And I
here.
said, is there any view here? Because we were in between the trees. Oh yeah, there was view, but there was also
Coyote?
coyote.
Sleeping under the tree.
And then all of a sudden she said, wait a minute, she was hiding within bushes because you had to have ink in the pen.
Red ant in my pants.
Anyway, so the guy said, listen, Abbink, you have 2 weeks time. Give $2,000. I will not cash it. And I said, well, what to do? I've never heard, I've never been in an avocado business. But I said, okay, here's $2,000. And because of that, when we came home in his room, there were 5 persons waiting because they wanted to buy this.
At that time there was hardly any grove, producing grove for sale.
Just we bought it then, and when we came home, he said, no, we have to sell our home in the world.
Yeah, that story I told already.
So we sold it, and then we had, instead of 1 acre and a home, we had 18 acres and no home.
Yeah.
How do we live? So I had to buy a trailer,
Yeah.
put it in the middle of the grove.
Now, were there trees on
Yeah,
this?
1,350 trees.
Wow,
So we went to school, we went to avocado school.
I guess.
But the orange trees, the apple trees,
No,
the
that we
pear
planted
trees, the
those.
peach trees.
We planted all the
Or-
family
The
fruit
family,
trees.
and that's
Yeah.
around this house? Or is it all over?
No, they're all down in one area, the family fruit trees.
Now, can you still subdivide more if you wanted to?
Yes, if we wanted to, we could split off one more parcel, because at the time we split off, we were only allowed 4 parcels. Now you are allowed 5 parcels. So we
4 and a
could,
half. 4 and a
no,
half.
so we still could theoretically split off a parcel of where we are on.
How long did you keep the 18 acres together?
A few years, 2 or 3
And so
years.
did you harvest the
Oh, yes,
avocados? Did you
yes,
do it
uh-huh.
yourself, or did you have somebody come in?
Well,
or what?
both. What we did the first time is we had among the avocados, we had 100 bacon trees. The avocado is called bacon, yeah. And because they come in at a different season, so we said, okay, we are going to pick those ourselves. They were still smaller, were easier to pick. And we want to know what's involved in it. Yeah? So we picked those 100 trees. The rest of the grove we had picked the other 1,250 trees. Yeah, but on and off, we never picked, really when a big crop came off, but occasionally we might have picked, let's say, 20 or 30 trees or so.
Yeah.
But it's hard work,
I can imagine.
because when the trees are bigger, you have a long stick with a picking pole then, with kind of a bag under it with a scissor. So you have to get the stem of the tree in these scissors, and then you pull on a cord, and then the fruit drops in the bag. And well, 1 fruit is okay, 2 fruit is okay, but that stick is long, and pretty soon if there are 5 or 6 of these avocados on this long pole up there, that gets heavy.
Do you know what percentage of avocados are used to make guacamole, like for Mexican restaurants and stuff?
No, I think what happens is mainly all the fruit that has top quality is used for regular consumption. The fruit that has blemishes or something like that, they use for restaurants and for cosmetics.
Yeah. We just have a couple more minutes,
Okay.
so think of, how would
Why don't
you
we
want to
stop
wrap
then
this
first?
up? Huh?
Why don't you stop for a
Okay,
second?
I will for a second.
Officially,
This is a picture, okay, this is a picture of Ted and Yvonne some years ago, kind of when they first were on the property here and probably had just built their house. And that's the driveway up to their home. And this is their home. And this was in a magazine in Holland. You needed to get This is their Temple City store, the drawing as well as the store itself. So you had a corner
Yeah.
store. That's kind of neat.
Where's the mail?
Oh, it was inside the store. Is that you guys? Who are those two?
I don't know. I have to look at the picture.
These are the pallets
Ted and Yvonne in their store.
No, not really here. When I worked in Holland, I worked in an international firm.
Here
I
they
used
are
it a
in their
lot.
store
I
also.
was wondering whether French people.
This is some of the stuff
And
that
then
they sold in their
If you tell
store.
about the,
I'm quicker. I know I leave out a lot of stuff. Yeah? Okay.
Well,
You want to do it? Well, in January 1979, we indeed became
on neighbors, he was a pilot, colonel, and he said that I'll become your
witness.
witness.
Yeah, you need
Because
witnesses.
that's-
Yeah.
witness, yes, okay.
They know him from in Washington.
Okay.
Well, when we became United States citizens and we were sworn in on the day that we came home, the neighbors had decorated our yard with all kind of American flags, so that was really nice. And
Yes.
like Ted said, our neighbors were our witness, and we had very nice witnesses, yes. Mhm.
Yeah.
So, and Ted always says, that day we became humble but proud Americans.
And did you have to study stuff or
Yes, we
take
went to
tests
school.
and all? Oh, you did?
Mhm.
Oh,
Yes, we had to prove that we could read and write English.
Uh-huh.
Mhm.
Yeah. And what did it mean to you, Ted?
And history.
That was part of your dream for a long time to
Yes.
become an American?
Well, if I met an American in the Dutch East Indies, I always said, he's American.
Always looked up
That's
to
American.
Americans.
That's an American.
Yeah.
And now he is one himself.
Now he's one himself,
One
yeah.
time I was at the airport in the Dutch East Indies, and one of the passengers was an American pilot, and he didn't know where to go, and I took him where he wanted to go.
Oh, yeah.
At that time, people really looked up to the Americans. So yes, it was really very nice to become a
Yeah.
United States citizen. I am not, or we are not Dutch American. We are American.
Amen. Well, thank you so much for having us to your lovely home.
Well, you're
Thank you.
welcome.
Yeah, okay, Daddy. Okay.
God bless you.
God bless you.
Don't get up, Teddy.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
And God bless you. Huh?
Thank you, Harry.
Yvonne, it worked out finally.
Yes,
It took
yes,
us a
we
little while
got
to get
it.
it. Thank you so much for all the work you did. It's just
Okay, I
wonderful.
hope you can use it.
Well, Dave
Oh,
was
we
mentioning
can.
that there's a couple of things that we could still use if you have time to do it. And you might